Blog Talk Radio.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Blog Talk Radio, IHWE Radio. I apologize, British Lady got me a little confused. If you don't know who British Lady is, I'll explain it to you later. We'd like to open this show tonight with a moment of silence. A couple days ago, we lost one of the greatest comedians on screen, on stage, ever. And I will say one of the greatest, and I can guarantee most people would back that up. Monday afternoon, we were all informed that we lost Robin Williams. Whether he was Mork for Mork, he was Adrian Cronauer, he was Popeye, he was the professor on Dead Poets, whatever film he did, everybody has a favorite. He was Patch Adams. He was everything. Funniest gentleman I've ever had a chance to see on stage. Never saw him live, only on stage, on TV, but still just one of the greatest comedians. And at this time, we will have a moment of silence in memory of Robin Williams. All right, thank you. And now it is time for Business's Hand. Ladies and gentlemen, Wednesday night, 8 p.m. Central in the great state of Texas, the home state of IHWE, Texas Professional Wrestling, and here on the sunny coast of California, 6 p.m. Pacific Time, and you are listening to IHWE Professional Wrestling Radio. I'm your host, Michael McCurdy, the creator and author of Encyclopedia WCCW, and one half of the team bringing you IHWE California. Joining me, as always, here behind the Redwood Curtain in Great Humboldt County, my co-host, Joe Sousa. Joe, how are we doing tonight?
Mike, I'm doing really well, and if I may, before I go into the welcome everybody, I like to throw my 2 cents in about Mr. Robin Williams. Such an icon, such an incredible talent, very tragic. The entire world, the entertainment world, is still backpedaling from this. And real quick to all our listeners out there and our listeners that may happen to know someone that is going through a deep bout of depression, once you get into the deeper parts of depression, there's no return. And it's not like you can tell somebody to snap out of it, because that's just like telling somebody that has cancer, stop having cancer. It just can't be done unless you need help. And if you happen to have depression or you know someone that does, please, call somebody, get help. It's not too late. And, you may feel alone, but you're not. So, being that said, our thoughts and prayers go to Mr. Williams' family. And also, good evening, everybody listening to us from all over the globe. Mike?
Definitely all over the globe. If you happen to know, David Fuller, the other day posted up some statistics off of YouTube. Our show has actually been listened to in Japan, Australia. We're high numbers in California and Texas. What a shocker. But the fact that we actually now have numbers that show that we're being listened to in Japan and Australia, and there was a long list of Germany, long list of countries. I find that personally amazing, because I'm sitting here in the great state of California in my little studio. Oh, I'm not going to lie, it's a bedroom. But for right now, it's my little studio. Got my computer all set up. We're good to go. And knowing that right now somebody on the other side of the world is listening to me ramble, I find that absolutely amazing.
And you know what's also so cool about this, Mike? Normally, we have to go on the road for Wednesday nights here on IHWE Pro Wrestling Radio here in Arcata and Eureka, California. No road trips. This is nice. I like it.
Oh, definitely no road trip. Road trips suck. Well, they don't suck. Road trips, folks, I'll explain this to you. Joe and I have been traveling up and down the highway, 101, 199, 299, I-5. We've been traveling up and down the great state of California, up towards the Pacific Northwest, up towards the Washington area. Been doing that for years. I, for some reason, decided I wanted to travel along with this guy. He's been doing a little longer than me. I decided I wanted to go along with him. I wanted to do one of these trips. And we've been crazy enough to do 8-hour trip up north to work for 3 or 4 hours, sleep at a rest stop in the middle of frickin' winter in Oregon. 32 degrees outside. It's freezing. The animals are looking at us like we're crazy. We're sleeping at a rest stop in a van and then driving back the next morning just to go work professional wrestling show.
With my 2 kids, keep in mind.
Yeah, with the 2 kids. Crazy stuff. That's why I say, for the most part, I don't like road trips. So doing this show right here from home, in my house, on my chair, wearing whatever I damn well please. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, I am dressed. It's okay. Unless people want to think of me that way, but that's neither here nor there. Anyway.
I was ready to hang up right now. So.
We probably lost all our listeners in Japan and all that, but to be able to do this show from home is awesome. So I enjoy it. But, we do have a little bit of help on this show. We do have a few members of our team. The IHWE Radio team is spread worldwide, and joining us tonight is one of the members of IHWE Radio team from the great state of Louisiana, and also from our partner radio show, Pipe Bomb Radio, Mr. Austin James. Austin, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing absolutely phenomenal, as always. And I can't just say good. I'm not doing good. I'm doing phenomenal.
Phenomenal once again. Phenomenal, Austin James. We're not going to go with AJ Styles, but he's absolutely phenomenal.
That's why we have to put a few synonyms before phenomenal, just to make it a little bit more, better than good.
All right, and we don't want to infringe on AJ Styles' trademark, so we're going to have to come up with a few other little...
No, we can't do that.
Well, Austin, as far as I'm concerned, you're always phenomenal in my book. How are you tonight, sir?
Thank you. I'm doing extremely phenomenal. Really big week of wrestling. I'm been very impressed with how everything's been going with only 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 days until SummerSlam. Not sure, but I know it's this Sunday on the WWE Network for, I don't know if you guys have the hint, but it's actually only $9.99. So you can get.
We're not doing that this week.
Oh no, I'm just telling you. I'm just giving you a memo. I don't think you've heard it, but SummerSlam this Sunday, and Brock Lesnar versus John Cena, Brie Bella versus Stephanie McMahon, which I'm looking forward to. Seth Rollins versus Dean Ambrose, and I think it's Bray Wyatt versus Chris Jericho, and a couple other matches that I'm probably forgetting the name. Oh, the flag match between
Roman Reigns
Alexander
versus
Russo.
Randy Orton.
Oh my God, yes. And that flag match between Alexander Russo and Jack Swagger.
Well, from top to bottom, it should be an absolute all-star card. It should be a great card on paper. Let's just hope that it comes through this weekend.
Well, definitely. And let's not forget, of course, to give the ladies their credit. Also, the Divas title is being defended. AJ Lee will be defending that title against Paige. And I'm a Paige fan, and I really kind of like the way they're doing the character now with the complete psycho bitch they're doing. I think it's great. I like it.
Definitely. Paige and AJ has at least for the past months have been doing this thing. It's been getting better by the week. I think. It kind of started off and then now the rivalry they're having now with Paige is not. I think she's more comfortable as a heel than she is a face. You can see it. She's an evil chick. She's a Helen Boots. And she's the enchanted raven-haired lady like William Regal says from time to time. And those two are going to clash this Sunday SummerSlam. I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a pretty good match with AJ and Paige.
There's really not a match on SummerSlam that I think is going to be slow or a downer. I'm looking forward to all of them. The only thing I'm kind of having a little criticism about now was we talked last week about how well they're doing the Brie Bella versus Stephanie McMahon storyline. And then Monday, and this is just my opinion, I'm sure Joe will chime in with his 2 cents here, they pulled this, what was her name, Megan Miller, Daniel Bryan's physical therapist, who has had relations with Megan Miller now, and so Daniel Bryan is a cheater, so Brie Bella attacks her, attacks Stephanie. We saw this a few months ago, and it was Claire Lynch and TNA, and supposedly she was pregnant with AJ Styles' baby. We've already seen this. So WWE, one, is ripping off a bad TNA storyline in the first place. And also, one of their top guys, who everybody still does the yes chant, people love Daniel Bryan, is it really a good idea to paint him as a, as a cheat? He's cheating on his wife. Is that really the storyline we want to go with?
There might be trying to do this to have him purposely lose steam. I mean, Daniel Bryan, he gives the term getting over a whole new meaning. I mean, everywhere he goes, or when he was champion, even before he was champion. Maybe they're trying to do this to slow down the Daniel Bryan steam, when and if he comes back. I mean, the fans just absolutely adore him. They love him. I personally enjoy his work. I just hope, if he does come back, that he won't come in like gangbusters, because that was pretty much to his Waterloo in the first place. But, yeah, as for that whole, cheating scandal, we've all seen that before, and the deal with AJ and the woman having this baby. And the last time we saw something like that several years ago, to throw a little humor on it, when Mae Young had a hand. I'm not going to go any further with that.
How is he doing?
I still never understood that angle.
I haven't heard how he's doing. I haven't heard at all.
Well,
the hand was on TV a couple years ago.
Oh yeah, the Raw 1000 actually.
Oh, the hand. Oh, okay.
I believe it was on Raw 1000. He just passed by and was like, "I'm Mae Young's son." 21 years later, something like that. I know it's not 21 years later, something like that. But I was going to say, I think Stephanie's trying to do her best to get under Daniel Bryan's skin. So, because with everything that Brie Bella's put her through over the past month, getting her arrested, I would probably go to that length and make up a story. So I think they're just trying to get under their skin. And I believe the fans know that Daniel Bryan would not do this, being the type of man he is.
You would hope. But I'm never going to insult the wrestling fans, because God love them. They're the backbone of this business. We don't have the fans. There's nothing to do. We don't have fans. We're just sitting here on a radio show talking to each other for an hour and a half.
Yeah.
But there are those fans out there that do really believe this stuff. That they really believe. So they're really going to think that Daniel Bryan is a cheater. And I'm sure that I'm going to talk to a few of these people, because I have exposure to some of these lovely individuals. And they're going to truly believe that Daniel Bryan is a cheater. They're not going to realize that it's a storyline, that it's, like a soap opera. They're really going to believe it. And I think that is going to kind of be a little bit in the detriment, because there are those out there. God love them. They still believe in it. It's still real to them, damn it. That's all I'm going to say on that.
Well, right now, as we speak, our dear friend Joan, Mike, who she is. She's looking down, smiling approvingly, but, she probably has a scowl for a few. Ah,
yes, Joan. We could have an entire show about that woman. We could invite Mr. Manning on from WC, from West Coast Wrestling Connection, a bunch of the guys from West Coast Wrestling Connection. We could have an entire show talking Joan stories, and ain't nobody on this planet going to believe this person actually existed, but we have proof.
Now,
sweet woman. Sweet woman,
yes.
Don't get me wrong. Sweet woman. But, whoo.
She is a promoter's dream. This woman gives the term mark a whole new meaning. What she said, what she sees, she thinks it's true. And we've seen her, give the good guys such big hugs, and the bad guys, well, she can just be outlandishly vicious.
Wow.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I'll tell you the story of Joan someday, Austin. Believe me, she was an interesting lady. Like I said, we lost her a few years back.
You're saying this is real?
This woman was an actual West Coast Wrestling Connection, Salem, Oregon. This woman, Joan, sat front row every show. She was there. She hated the bad guys. She loved the good guys.
Oh.
Plain and simple. And if the bad guy said anything bad, she flipped.
Wow.
She was she was more fun to watch sometimes than the show itself.
Well, especially after the show, because we would have, what was called a meet and greet at a local restaurant. And in this case, it was the Best Roadhouse in Salem. And there would be cases where the good guys and bad guys would sit, out opposite ends of the restaurant. and Joan would sit in the middle, and some of the bad guys would take a few digs at her, and it got to be quite a few intense moments. Mike and myself sitting with Hawaiian Lion John Williams. Some words were said, and Joan and her brood wanted to literally have a rumble in the back of the restaurant there.
True story. Like I said, these are the stories you cannot tell. You can only tell in professional wrestling. You can't tell these stories anywhere else. Because only in professional wrestling do these things happen.
And one thing I think we definitely have to touch on, I don't know if we did last week, on the release of Alberto Del Rio. I want to definitely get you guys' thoughts about this, because I personally was like, wow, that guy. I mean, he's a former WWE World Heavyweight Champion. I don't think he. I don't know if WWE stepped across the line with this, and maybe they took corrective action. I don't know how you guys think about it. What's your thoughts?
My thoughts are mixed. Because like I said, I'm old school. Sports entertainment, pro wrestling, and when you hear social media people, creative, what have you. Because with me, as far as it's wrestler, referee, booker, promoter, whatever. The whole thing could have been defused. If Del Rio would have went up to the guy, which he did, and if the guy would have said, I'm sorry, I apologize, it was a rib, it was a joke, move on. But, maybe he had an axe to grind, an issue, maybe he just wanted to, hey, Del Rio, I got one over on you, and Del Rio, as you know, of temper not very long, and the rest is history, and I have mixed feelings about that, because he was one of the top players, in the company, former champion. Like I said, my feelings are mixed.
Well, for anyone out there who doesn't know the entire story, they haven't come forth exactly for sure and said it was this, but I believe it was their social media, one of their social media people, and Backstage Catering were putting a plate away. They were asked to clean off the plate before they put it over in the sink area or cleaning area, wherever that's at. And the social media guy made the comment or the joke that, I thought that was Alberto Del Rio's job. So we were making the joke about the Hispanics washing the dishes. I can see how that might be considered offensive to, Hispanic individual. I can see how that might be considered politically incorrect in this day and age, and I hate using the term politically correct. But I understand its place in society now. So I can see Alberto's issue with a comment like that being made. I don't agree with how he handled it, though, because, yes, he is one of the WWE superstars, and he should be handling himself with a little bit more professional decorum. That is just my opinion. I do think going up to him, confronting the guy and saying, hey, heard about this, did not appreciate it. If the guy didn't apologize, then maybe it should have been handled. I don't think slapping the guy was the best way to handle it. On the other side, I think WWE firing him for this is absolutely ridiculous. But they're under such a microscope right now due to budget cuts and what people are considering the failure of the network. I don't see it as a failure yet. There's such an intense scrutiny. I can see why they would have to let something go. Because, honestly, in this day and age, the story gets out, it's all over social media, it's all over the news sites, and eventually some group is going to come after WWE, say that they found it highly offensive, and obviously that's part of WWE's audience, so they do have to kind of balance the issue. But on the other hand, by firing Alberto Del Rio, they may have also alienated some of their audience. So I don't know if it was handled correctly, but I do understand why they handled it the way they did.
Well, don't expect him to be on the unemployment line too long, because, knowing, of, his bloodline, we'll be seeing him in the four-squared circle very, very soon.
From what I understand, he's rumored it's AAA, and I believe now another chapter to this little story is Rey Mysterio is actually trying to get out of his contract with WWE to join him over in AAA. So
yeah, I actually just seen the poster.
Alberto Del Rio, Rey Mysterio tag team.
Yeah, I've seen the actual poster with Alberto on AAA's website. He will be at the show, their next show, which I cannot remember the date. I know it's sometime in September or towards the end of August, but he will be at the AAA show.
Now, unfortunately, I'm not sure if that falls within their no-compete clause. He might be able to show up, but I don't think he can compete in the ring.
Yeah, I know there's like the 90 days thing they have to.
So, if I can watch.
If I can switch gears just for a real quick second, this was a big news, and a personal friend of ours. I want to send a shout out to Ata Maivia Johnson, The Rock, Dwayne's mom. She and a relative, they were in a head-on crash last week with a drunk driver, and they both survived. From what I heard, they're in the hospital. No life-threatening injuries, but I just want you to know, wish them well, speedy recovery.
From what I understand, she has been released. Earlier today, I saw a photo of her leaving, arms in a cast, so it looks like, she's walking. She's leaving the hospital on her own accord from what I saw in the picture. So,
okay,
but
good,
yes,
thank
definitely
you.
Speedy recovery to Anta. Sweet lady. Got a chance to meet her at Cauliflower Alley. See her every year there now. Sweet woman. You don't want to see this happen to anybody, but
no.
All right. We're going to switch some gears again. We like switching gears here on IHWE Radio. Keep the show just moving. We're going to go back. We're going to talk a little old school, a little history. Brian Westcott is joining us. Brian, how are you doing tonight?
Not bad. Good to hear. Good to be with everybody. Oh, yeah, I guess we'll get a little quick deal on current event. One current event here. September 19th, mark it down in Sherman, Texas. IHWE Heavyweight Champion Matt Riviera will be taking on National Wrestling Alliance World Heavyweight Champion Rob Conway for the NWA belt. So that's going to be a real good match. So fans, check that out if you can get tickets for that. And yes, a big shout out and best wishes to Ana Maivia as well. 20 years ago today, ECW Hardcore Heaven at the ECW Arena in Philadelphia. Main event was Cactus Jack battled Terry Funk to a no contest, yet Sabu defeated Too Cold Scorpio. The Public Enemy, Johnny Grudge and Rock beat Axel Ian Rotten, retained the ECW World Tag Team titles in their first Brawl game match. Remember, baseball was on strike at that time, and so they instituted a match, kind of almost a Texas death match. If you couldn't answer the 10 count, then that opponent got access to baseball bats they could use legally. And then it was just pinfall and submission to win the match. Sandman defeated Tommy Dreamer by DQ in a Singapore King match. 911 beat Mr. Hughes. Jimmy Snuka, the Tasmaniac, beat the Pitbulls. Jason, sexiest man on earth, defeated Mikey Whipwreck to win the ECW television title. Chad Austin beat Tommy Cairo. Hack Myers defeated Rockin' Rebel. Now, 22 years ago, yesterday, Masahiro Chono defeated the late ravishing Rick Rude in Tokyo, Japan to win New Japan Pro Wrestling's G1 Grade 1 Climax Tournament and the vacant National Wrestling Alliance World Heavyweight Championship. Now, the title has been vacated for over a year, and New Japan got permission to host a tournament, and so Chono won, and it was a really good match. Can't say the same about their title defense back in Halloween Havoc in 92, and a lot of fans thought that was one of the worst match on the entire show. But anyway, but also August 11th, 2 years ago, Monday, we lost Roland Red Bastien. And I can't believe it's been 2 years. Bastien was one of a kind. Of course, I'm a recipient of the Red Bastien Friendship Award in the CAC. And Red was one of a kind. Make no mistake about that, and he is truly missed. Even with the death of Robin Williams, there are professional wrestling. We've acquired some unique personalities over the years. It does remind me of one particular talent that we lost in 2011, right before the CNC reunion. And that guy's name is Sweet and Sour Larry Sweeney. Sweeney's real name was Alexander Wybrow. He grew up in Chicago, got trained in Chicago Pro, Mikey Whipwreck, and got seasoning from Colonel De Beers and the late Playboy Buddy Rose up there in Portland. And Sweeney mostly competed in Chicago Pro and in Ring of Honor. But he also had his issues, bipolar depression, as well as drugs. which led to him, unfortunately, hanging himself from the turnbuckle in his school in Louisiana, and he was 31 years old. So, like I say, a lot of similarities. So we've had our share of tragedy, but also we've managed to actually triumph from tragedy as well. Kevin Von Erich's living proof of that, having gone through what he's gone through.
Here,
so there's some nice nutshell on history for you.
I just saw something else today, I believe it was. Lance Cade, 4 years ago, 2010? Today, yeah.
Yep. That was
we will actually have, next week on our show, we're going to have Rudy Boy Gonzalez from Texas Wrestling Academy, and he was one of Lance Cade's trainers. So I think that's actually where I read the post on. So I'm sure we'll be talking about Lance Cade as well as the other students that Rudy Boy has trained over the years.
I got to meet Larry Sweeney several years ago. He actually worked up in Salem at a West Coast Wrestling Connection show. I actually got the honor and the privilege to call a battle royal that featured him and a tag team match. And we spent a little bit of time after the show. Very nice young man, deeply missed. And Red Bastien, what can you say about such a legend like Red Bastien? One of the nicest guys in the business. And that term is always used loosely, but not in this case. Very, very nice man. Got to see him wrestle in the Cow Palace centuries ago. I'm not going to go into how old I am, but one highlight that kind of that's hold dear to my heart was when the Cauliflower Alley reunion was at the Riviera a few years back. He danced with my wife Arlene while Pat Patterson he did his singing. And for those of you out there, Pat, he has a voice that'll knock your socks off.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Patterson's got a great voice. I could share a story about Red real quick. I think it was the last reunion he was at. We were there, and I had a copy of the WWE Encyclopedia because I was getting some signatures on it. Had the Iron Sheik sign it. And Red was sitting at a table nearby, and I sat with him and talked to him. I always talk to Red whenever we were there. I mean, great guy. But he asked, what the book was, and I told him, asked me one to take a look at it, and, so I handed him the book, and I left him alone. I figured give him a few minutes, so I walked around the room. Red sat there for probably an hour, just going through, turning page by page. You'd see him point at a picture and smile and nod his head, but you could tell he was really enjoying himself for that minute, for that moment in time. So I was happy to be able to, let him look through that, and, I'm glad I let him have his moment by himself, because, you don't want fans around and, what can you tell me about him? What can you tell me about that? So, I didn't take any pictures of it or anything like that. I just, I watched from afar, and you could tell Red was enjoying himself at that moment. These were, his friends and the guys he worked with and the guys he was on the road with. And in fact, Red's in that book, and his signature's on his picture in there. So it's a very nice souvenir.
Yeah, I got his autograph in my copy, too. I think it was sitting right next to him when he was looking through the book. Yeah, I still remember that. I still got my picture with him at the 2007 reunion. But, yeah, I still remember most humbling night of my life in April 2012, and Red's daughter was there, Red's wife Carol was there. Gordienko told me Carol had tears coming down her face as I mentioned it in my speech. Like I say, I didn't know that would be the last time. Because a few months after that, we lost him at the age of 81 to Alzheimer's. And it is what it is, one of his many quotes. But, yeah, definitely probably the most beloved within CAC, without a doubt.
I don't think anybody expected that to be the last time we saw Red. I met him in 2006, the first reunion I went to, and I shook his hand and introduced myself, got a picture with him. And then periodically throughout the rest of the reunion, he'd see me walking around the hotel, asking me, how are you enjoying it, Michael? Let me introduce you to, and so he'd take me over and introduce me to this guy, and he met me 2 days beforehand. And he was taking me around, introducing me to, some of the older guys there. And I say older, that with much respect. Joe, much respect to you, too. You did say older. Your birthday was this past Friday. So happy birthday to Joe.
I
was going to acknowledge that last week. We forgot. But yeah, I mean, it was a chance to – I mean, Red was a great guy. Definitely an ambassador for this sport. I mean, knew me for a day and treated me like I was a friend, that he'd known me for years. And every year after that, when I saw him, he'd come by, oh, Michael, good to see you again, and shake my hand and ask me how everything was going and how everything was. And, my daughter, one year I went, he asked me how my daughter was because he knew I had a little 3-month-old, So, I mean, that was Red. Red was a great guy, definitely missed.
Yes, indeed.
And I'm looking on our studio. Yes, we are. We are being joined by tonight's guest. Now, we've talked about some of the history of the sport. We've talked about legends. We've talked about guys that definitely leave an impression. And we've talked about a little bit of road stories. This gentleman coming up tonight, ladies and gentlemen, definitely has stories. Just released a book, The Grappler, Memoirs of a Masked Madman. I'm about 50 pages into it. Awesome book. If you have a chance, go out, pick up a copy. It's on Amazon. You can order it on your Kindle, your ebook reader. You can buy a hard copy, print copy from either Amazon or through grapplerbook.com. We'll let him plug all that. But it's definitely a great read. Definitely got some great stories. I had the chance to meet this man back in 2004, I believe it was. And I am honored to have him on as a guest. And I'm going to steal a little bit from him. I hope he doesn't, load up the boot on me. But, as I said in our show description, when you have a guest such as this on your show, you don't call him a guest. You call him the Grappler. Grappler, welcome to IHWE Radio.
Hey, buddy, thanks for having me on, man. The only thing you forgot to say was, beat us if you can. I love it, buddy.
How you doing, my friend? Good. How you
Hanging
doing?
in there, man. You know where I'm at right now? You're never going to believe this. I'm in Salem, Oregon, standing outside the wrestling school. I'm fixing to train a bunch of hammerheads here tonight. And so I told them, first of all, I got to call in this podcast and tell everybody hi and talk to you guys. And when I'm done, I got to get the ring. Can you believe I'm still training guys after all these years?
Hey, Grappler, this is Joe Sousa here. I want to wish you well. And by the way, when you go back in, stretch him. Show him how it's done.
Stretch him, show us how it's done, buddy. That's what they did to me. So I might as well give these boys a little bit what it tastes like. You know what I mean? They got to respect the business if they're going to get in it. You know what I mean? Well, hey, I appreciate you guys having me on the show, and I appreciate you advertising my book like that. Can you believe it's the #1 seller on Amazon, the wrestling book right now? That's
I did forget to mention that.
You did. You plugged it good. You should go to grapplerbook.com and get your books, and I appreciate you doing that. And Mama does too. And I'm glad you guys had me on the air tonight, boss. So what's going on?
Oh, not much, man. We are glad to have you on the show. One, like I said, we're going to talk a little bit about your career, and I'm sure you've got a few road stories you can share with us, and we're going to talk about the book a little bit. But one thing I want to touch on real quick, a couple weeks ago we made the announcement, September 28th, you will be going back to Fort Worth, Texas for IHWE's Old School Hustle. And as you explained in the promo, you always said you were from parts unknown, but in reality, you were from a small town in Texas. So what is it like going back after I don't know how many years you've been gone, but what is it like knowing that in just a few short weeks you will be back in Texas and inside of a wrestling ring?
Well, you know what they say in Texas, brother, and I'm so proud to go back because that's where my heart's at. That's where my mom and dad was at. That's where they're buried at. That's where my family lives, and I love Texas. Once you're from Texas, brother, they can't change it. It's like a whole new country. And I'll tell you something. They say they got so much pride in Texas. If you ask a gentleman, a man, if he said, you don't have to go up and ask him if he's from Texas, because if he is, he'll let you know. And if he's not, you don't embarrass him. Okay? So that's when I think about Texas. Brother, I got a lot of pride in Texas, and I tell you, it's an honor to be able to go back. I was a Texas heavyweight champion for over a year. I beat Brian Adidas for that belt when I worked with World Class Wrestling. And I explained this to people before. I've had probably 25 or 30 championship belts in my career. I had the North American heavyweight title. I won off Ted DiBiase. I beat wrestlers all over the country for belts, every area I've probably been in. But the one that meant the most to me was that Texas heavyweight title, because when I took that back and showed the man, which was my dad, that I was a Texas heavyweight champion, he was more proud than anything he'd ever seen. And that made me proud as well. And so I was glad, and I'm so happy to go back to Texas, because that's where all my family is. That's where it all started, way back there at 17 years old, when they beat the hell out of me and said, hey, you're not big enough and tough enough to be a pro wrestler. That's where I made my mark and fought my way through everything and made it back and made it to the top of the sport of professional wrestling. And that's why I'm still here today. And, brother, I can't wait to get back there. And I can't wait for that show on the September 28th in Fort Worth. They're calling it Old School Hustle. I understand that there's going to be a bunch of guys there. Black Bart's going to be on the wrestling show. They're going to have Stan Delarian Hanson's going to be there. Jim Cornette's going to be there, the manager. All these guys, you got big names. It's going to be an honor to be on the wrestling show or the card with them and all the guys that wrestle there. And I'll tell you one thing. I heard there's a lot of up-and-comers around that area that's working for that promotion. And they're got some young guys, and they're trying to make their mark. So in Texas, they know all about gunslinging. So them guys will probably be shooting for me. They know the old legends coming to Fort Worth again, the Grappler. So I'll be watching my back, and I'll be taking care of business in case somebody tries me out.
You have been warned, Texas fans. The Grapplers come back to Fort Worth, and the IHWE boys have been warned, don't try jumping. Don't try him. He's watching his back. He's ready for you.
That's right, buddy. I got Black Bart watching my back too. I'll tell you what was a good one about Black Bart. I might have mentioned this before in something, but I remember when me and Black Bart we're in Charlotte, North Carolina, and younger guys in, and they came in the locker room and they go, hey, listen, you guys want to make some extra money? There was 4 or 5 of us there, and the promoter goes, tomorrow at the mall, we're going to have Ginger, the wrestling bear. And so one of you guys want to wrestle the bear for some extra payday? And so I wasn't about to, but Black Bart, he agrees to it. He goes, yeah, I need some extra money. I'll take on that bear. He's nuts. And so when I seen him the next night in his locker room when he came to wrestle with a black eye, he had scratches, he's beat all the heck, he had bruises everywhere, I asked him, how'd that go with the bear? And Black Bart didn't want any more to do with any wrestling, any bear anymore. I mean, he said leave the snakes for Jake the Snake and out in the zoo, and leave the bears for the zoo or whatever if you want to look at them, but don't try to wrestle them, Grappler, because you will get your ass whooped and handed to you. And so ask him about it if you get a chance, because he'll tell you he don't want nothing to do with them wrestling bears anymore.
One story I have. Yes, yes. I do have a couple of things real quick. Okay. Two moments that come dear to my heart. One was, I've had the honor and pleasure of calling a couple of your matches up in Portland when you were wrestling for Portland Wrestling for Frank Culbertson. Sure. One match in particular was in Eugene at the Lane County Fairgrounds. Yourself and Ed Moondog Moretti, and with the steel cage and the coal miner's pole with your loaded boot on the pole, the Roman Gladiator death match, and that gave the term brutal a whole new meaning, and it introduced brutality to the new Portland wrestling fans, because us older folk, Don Owens, rest his soul. I mean, that was one heck of a promotion, which brings me to another moment, the infamous Breakfast Club.
Yes, sir. Well,
when it was you and Nord and taking care of business with Mr. Brian Adams with all those boxes of cereal and gallons of milk in the ring. Whew, oh my goodness.
Well, Joe, let me explain to you how that came to pass. How we ended up doing something like that. Okay. Okay. It was you remember that the wrestling commission was so strict how they came down on Don Owens' shows. Yeah. And they said, hey, you can't use chairs, you can't use tables. If anybody starts to bleed, you got to stop the match, and then and take them back to the dressing room. And even if you use a closed fist, we can fine you. One time I broke my thumb on a Friday night in Eugene, so Saturday is the time for the TV. That's where you made most of your money in Portland. And I taped my thumb up. That's the third time it's been broken. I've been doing this a while. so I knew how to tape it. I taped it up. And I wrestled, and I was on TV, and the commission, seen me, the wrestling commissioner, and he fined me $250 for using excessive tape. So I called the guy. I go, hey, dude, why did you fine me for using excessive tape? I was taped up. My finger was broken. He goes, oh, you didn't contact the commissioned doctor? You had a broken finger? I would have fined you another $250 for that. I go, so we couldn't do anything. I mean, it's like, if you can't use a chair, you can't use a table. If you start bleeding, what are we going to do? We can't even have a wrestling match, And so, actually, of all people, John Nord thought of this. He goes, I'll tell you what we're going to do. Next week, we're going to go out there with Cheerios and milk, and we're going to beat the hell out of Brian Adams and see if they can stop that. We're going to call it the Breakfast Club. Are they going to fine us for using milk and Cheerios? And, brother, I said, I don't understand. He goes, have you ever been hit with a gallon of milk when it ain't open? Brian Adams had bruises all over him, okay? And it's like, that milk, them big gallons of milk hurt, especially when a guy like John Nord is swinging it, with all that pressure. But the milk would go flying. The people went nuts. They loved it. They loved the Breakfast Club. I got over big time, People still to this day ask me to do it now. They go, why don't you do the Breakfast Club? We want to see that again. but I tell you something. It messes the match up so bad. The match after you better do it last, because the match after you, the guys are pissed off because they're like, man, we're slipping and sliding that stinking milk. They want to kill me,
I think the match after you, Wiskowski, Colonel De Beers, he was in the ring and he was having a hard time slipping and falling. But before that. Well, but when you guys went up into the crow's nest and talked to Don Koss about the Breakfast Club, I'll never forget what Nord, he looked at Koss, he said two things: have hand, will slap, welcome to the Breakfast Club. And exactly. then Koss, tried to, put you guys in line, which that's a big mistake, because I'll never forget, Nord looked at Koss and his exact quote was, hey, puke, who threw you up? I lost it, man. That was just funny.
Johnny had some one-liners. He was fantastic. I love that he said, have hand, will slap. We used to wear shirts around, call ourselves the Weasel Slappers. He loved to do that.
That's right because you mentioned the Koss and Piper. There's two type of people in this world: weasels and weasel slappers.
Slappers, brother.
which at my shoot job at a hospital, sometimes I have to say that in the kitchen to keep my coworkers in line.
I got you. It'll work, buddy. It'll work. But, we had some fun with that.
Now, also I hear right now, you're managing for the West Coast Wrestling Connection, and you've got the Wrecking Crew going again, and there's happens to be a young man who you've given the name Grappler number 3 to.
That's true. They got the Wrecking Crew going and working for the West Coast Wrestling Connection. We're doing the Bob White Theater over on Foster in Portland, Oregon, if you ever come by. Actually, we got a show this coming Sunday. We're shooting 2 episodes of television. And then it's normally on the first Saturday of every month. And so, and then we run Salem on the Sunday. And so it's a Saturday-Sunday thing. Guys fly in. They wrestle the TV show for West Coast Wrestling on the Saturday at Bob White. Then they stay the night and come work Sunday in Salem. We get a couple of shows out of them. And things have been going well. It's on PDX TV on channel 49. It airs at Saturday night at midnight, and so most people DVR to watch it if they're up running around on Saturday night. They'll tune it in. We're having some good ratings, and things seem to be going well. So looking for a good future of that. I hope it lasts forever. I love doing it. I can't believe after all these years I'm still doing it. I thank God for it. My knees ain't blowed out, so I got a little bit left in me. I can go out there and manage and take some guys like I got Grappler 3 now coming along, and we're looking for some championship belts. There's another guy named Hammerstone. Alex Hammerstone's a pretty good star. We're going to be you're going to see him up and coming, getting some championship belts, I'm sure, and a lot of good talent around this area now that's coming in and out.
Brian Westcott. My father and I, we've driven to Portland, Oregon so many times over the years. But we remember you and Ronnie Piper owned Piper's Pit Stop.
Sure. Yeah.
And I think I remember we actually tore something out of a phone book. And I think we actually drove by it, too. I think my father asked Ronnie Piper when Piper was at the CSA reunion in 2011. And I think that pit shop is no more now. I think it's been sold.
Yeah, we had it for, let's see, I opened that. What happened there is when Don Owens, Vince finally ran down, or I guess the commission basically ran down out of business, the wrestling commission. But and Vince, WWE kind of took over everything, and Don went home. I was headed back to Texas, and then Roddy came to me and goes, "Hey, I want to start a small business in town." And so I went ahead and done it because I have 2 daughters, and they were small then, and I knew, and I got 2 calls from WWE. They wanted to hire me, but I decided to do this business because I'd been on the road for 14 years already. And so I said, you know what? I started when I was 17 years old. And I said, if I don't do something for these kids now, I'm going to be on the road and probably never see them grow up. I need to get some kind of future. So what I done was I opened that business for Roddy, and we started in 2000, the Piper's Pit Stop Transmission Center, and then it lasted I ran it for 12 years, and we leased it for 2, and then we sold the property and split it up, and then went from there. But I did pretty good at it, but I wrestled part-time as well, after I got it going good. But it lasted a long time, It was a miracle in a small business. It was really hard, but it made it go. And then during that time I wrestled back and forth. I even gave a shot at WCW. I tried out for a contract with those guys, which didn't pan out, but I kept my wrestling stuff going as well. And now I'm back at it full time. But that's what happened with the pit stop, so you know.
Wow. I remember one feud you had was against Carl Stiles up in Portland. The whole storyline was just so well done when he was your protege, when you slapped him, abused him, kept him in line, and the whole build up to where there was a bounty on your mask, and then what was the name of that guy from the radio station? Bill Prescott. That's right, the DJ guy.
Right, Bill Prescott. I got a couple of things to tell you about. The thing with Carl Stiles was, Carl Stiles only had one eye. He had a prosthetic eye. And so, the people felt sorry for him already. And then if you remember Lonnie Main and Tony Bourne, Tony used to slap the heck out of Lonnie Main back in the day. And so the people had seen that. They were familiar with that. But when I started slapping Carl and he's got one eye, the people really hated me and felt sorry for him. They wanted to kill me. Now, this guy is built like huge, and they figure if he ever cut loose, he would tear the grappler up, right? But he never, he'd hold back, and I would tell him, listen, you need my guidance because I know more than you do, and the people were just getting irate. They were wanting to kill me, and it's getting better and better. And then they brought the Prescott guy in. Now, the thing with the mask, if you remember, I remember about this. Roddy Piper got involved, and he goes, I'll give $1,000 to the person. I think it was either $500 or $1,000 to the person that can take the picture and bring it to me and the grappler with his mask off. That lasted about a week. I told Piper to go out there and take it off because the bounty off, because people were chasing me down in cars. I'm trying to take my kids to school. I mean, I almost got wrecked a couple of times over $1,000. They kill you. And so I said, dude, you got to get me killed, man. And so, I'll be in this bathroom, so they'd be trying to take a picture of me under the bathroom door. It's like crazy. And
I believe also the powers that be at the radio station that Prescott worked at, they upped the ante along with Piper's money. Was a CD player, some CDs, and I believe it was a Bon Jovi tickets to a Bon Jovi concert as well.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And then and all kinds of things, and people were going nuts, man. And I'm like, hey, you guys are going to get me killed, man. Y'all need to pull this off somehow, They were going nuts over that money, and all those gifts and stuff. But yeah, it was crazy. It was crazy time. The thing with Styles is something else too,
Lots of great times up in Portland.
We're being joined right now by the man who is behind the brand known as IHWE. Therefore, I will bring him on because I enjoy my job. David Fuller. David, how you doing?
All right.
I'm doing all right, guys. I'm sitting here listening to the Grappler tell some tales, and I'm excited because the Grappler's coming home to Texas on September 28th. I sat on the phone with Jim Cornette yesterday, and I said, Jim, the Grappler's coming to Texas, and he's coming, and God only knows what's going to happen. And Jim said, oh, my goodness, you got me, you got Black Bart, you got Stan Hansen, you got Len Denton under one roof.
Well, something, David, that's good to hear from you, buddy. I'll tell you what, and I'll be around you about a day and a half. I'll have my Texas accent back, by God. I guarantee it. I love it. I about lost it, man, being up here with all these people way up north.
Well, it's going to be an honor, ladies and gentlemen. If you haven't yet ordered the book, Dave Meltzer, I'm going to wait and get mine handed to me personally by the man himself at the end of September. Dave Meltzer, yesterday in his update, just had nothing but great things to say about it. And the Grappler's had a long-standing history in the business, and he's going to be down here September 28th. We've got IHWE TV. We're going to be taping that night. So, and real quick, we're going to get it in at 10 p.m. tonight. The Terry Gordy Memorial Battle Royal, 10 o'clock tonight. Grappler, I know you probably had a lot of road stories with Bam Bam Gordy.
Oh, brother, let me tell you something. Those guys were something back in Mid-South with the Freebirds, man. I rode with them and ran with them and Gordy. But the thing about Terry is Terry was a heck of a nice fella if he's your friend, and I loved him to death like a brother. But he was one of the best in the ring, best workers, best wrestlers that ever came along. And I think it was an honor to be in any match with him, whether it was a battle royal or whatever it was, you know. And another thing, too, Dave, seriously, from my heart, I appreciate you guys bringing me out to Texas because, man, that's where I'm from, and that's where I'll always be from. And it's an honor in my heart to be able to come back home. I'm so proud that I can and be on a show in Texas and Fort Worth. And I just wanted to thank you very much myself and let you know that.
Oh, not a problem, Lynn. You know, Michael and Joe and myself, we all kind of put our heads together and said, you know what, we really need to make this happen, especially with all the people. I'm about bringing the old school to the new school, and I want to bring the legend to the fans here in Texas. You know, none of us are promised tomorrow.
Sure.
And, you know, you guys don't get to see each other enough. So I'm proud to do it. Michael had a big hand in it. Joe as well. It's a collaboration of all three of us. So, hey, it's going to be an honor to be around you that weekend. Barbara Goodish is looking forward to seeing you.
Fantastic,
Connie Gordy, Terry Gordy's wife, will also be there.
Yeah. Good.
So, I mean, it's going to be great. Craig Johnson from Global Wrestling Federation is going to be there. I mean, it is just going to be, you know, and like I said, September 28th, you're just going to have to be there. And Lord knows what the Grappler is going to get into that night. And we're just happy to have you.
Well, I'll tell you something.
So it's our honor.
David, it's an honor here. I'll tell you a story about me and Terry Gordy. I was just thinking this is for you people. We were in Louisiana in Mid-South, right? And so I always ran, at that particular time I was running with Dick Murdoch, and that boy could drink some beer, okay? And so, believe me, and he's from Texas too, from Amarillo. And so us two Texans running together every night, and Bill Watts even warned us, if one of you guys get beat up, your ass is fired, okay? And so when are you going to get beat up? And I told Murdoch, well, I wear a mask. If I get beat up, nobody's going to know who I am anyway, so I'll stooge you off, and he would have, believe me. Okay, but so one night Murdoch's booked out of the territory working somewhere, and I'm by myself at TV, and here comes Gordy and Hacksaw Jim Duggan, and they ran together drinking every night. But they liked the Jack Daniels. I can't hack the Jack Daniels. Okay, Grappler ain't that tough, but them boys could. And they come over and say, "You think you and that Murdoch, y'all always bragging about drinking and stuff? We want to show you how real men drink. Why don't you meet us at this bar called Cowboys, and we'll show you. You can drink some Jack Daniels with a Hacksaw and Terry Bam Bam Gordy." And I go, "Your eyes are on. You're on, brother. As soon as TV's over." So when TV is over, they headed for the bar, and I headed the other way. I tried to hide from them. And so after I went to a different bar, and I had my time or whatever, I come back to the hotel where I'll stay at this certain hotel where the guys stayed. When I walked up to my hotel room door, it was knocked off the hinges, just laying in the hole. I moved the door out of the way. All the beds were turned upside down. My stuff was all over the room. I knew who had done it, okay? So I went around to their room, and I looked in. I peeked through the curtain, and I see Gordy. He's looking at a magazine sitting on the bed, and Duggan's on the phone. And I run back, and I kicked the door, and boom, it flew open, and the chain hooked and tore a big piece of sheetrock off the wall and fell onto the floor. And I go, "Hey, what goes around comes around, boys." and I took off running.
Wow.
And, and so they chased me a little while. They got blowed up, and I got away from them. The next day, it cost us both like $75 to pay for the doors, and that was it. Now they'd probably put you in jail, but then they let us go. But we still laughed about it going down the road, and they're calling me a chicken, you know, and wouldn't drink Jack Daniels with them. Murdoch was back the next night. We went on our beer drinking deal again and kept it going. That's a Gordy story for you there. That was a good one.
Wow, that's truly awesome. That's truly awesome. I'll say one thing really quick, and then I'll jump off here and let you just get back to your show. Lynn, I know there's one guy I'm really excited for you to meet down here. He goes by the name Spoiler 2000. Okay. He was trained by the General Skandar Akbar.
My man, yeah.
He was actually, and Spoiler 2000 is a walking, he worked just like Don Jardine, and
really?
Spoiler 2000 actually contacted Don Jardine before his passing and asked him, can I do this? And Don Jardine gave him his blessing.
Oh,
you were
great.
really going to like this guy, especially with the mask. He is, as soon as he arrives at the building, he drives up, he's got his mask on. And he doesn't take it off until he is on the road back, long gone from the building.
There you go. That's cool.
He's a real good guy.
To meet him. I can't wait to meet him. I knew Don Jardine real well.
Yeah, he's a great guy. He loves the old school. But guys, y'all have a great show. Lynn, I just wanted to touch bases with you for a few minutes, buddy. I appreciate you sending those interviews in to me.
Sure.
And they're going to be airing in the upcoming weeks on IHWE TV. And like I said, Michael, at 10 o'clock, as soon as the show's over with tonight, the Terry Gordy Memorial Battle Royal on IHWEnow.com. Guys, have a great show. Lynn, I will see you on September 28th, sir.
You got it, brother. I'll be there.
Thank you. Good night.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right, that was David Fuller, the owner and founder of IHWE Professional Wrestling, and the man I like to call boss. But he wanted to call in there real quick. And while we have him, while he was still on there real quick, tomorrow, we were talking about James Cornette also, tomorrow, 2 p.m. Central Standard Time, 12 p.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Mountain, and 3 p.m. Eastern, David is hosting a special edition of IHWE Radio, one-on-one interview with the man himself, the legendary James E. Cornette. Jim Cornette will be talking about his future with IHWE. There's a major announcement coming. Going to be a great show. Definitely want to get that in. But back to the Grappler. Austin?
Yes, sir.
Sit back there. You definitely got a history, you know. As I said, your wisdom of wrestling is well beyond your years. Is there anything you'd like to ask the Grappler?
Definitely. You know, you mentioned earlier, sir, that you actually have a best-selling book on Amazon.com. If anybody wants to get it, it's actually The Grappler Memoirs of a Masked Man, and you can get it on Amazon.com. What inspired you to actually go into making that book? And I know you've had such a great career, but what inspired you to go about it?
Well, I tell you, I used to go along and people, I would, be on the road talking and telling stories, especially with the younger guys nowadays. And I'd tell a story. They'd say, well, hey, listen, one time I met Kurt Hennig. I go, Kurt Hennig? Yeah, let me tell you. One time me and Kurt Hennig were in Minneapolis, Minnesota. He shaved half my eyebrow off. I got drunk, passed out. He shaved my eyebrow off, which is a true story. Anyway, that's not in the book, though. And so then they talk about, one time I seen this YouTube thing of Ox Baker. I said, let me tell you about Ox Baker. Ox Baker's the one that gave me that saying, beat me if you can. He's the one that came up with it originally, but he let me have it as a grappler. That's a true story, too. And then they go to the next guy, and every guy I talk about, and, I'd have a story. And they go, you know what, Grappler, you need to write a book. You should write a book. I said, really think so? So it started like that. And then it went on, and then, through the years, and different people would say that. I even tried to contact, well, you know what, maybe they're right. I tried to contact the college and talk to people that's learning to do that kind of thing for a living, and I couldn't get anybody, nobody contact me back, so I just went on with what I'm doing. But I met this fellow named Joe V that has a show on Channel 12 on Fox here in Portland, Oregon, and that's what he went to college for. And we got to doing the TV show, the wrestling show together, me and him and Roddy Piper, and it just fell into place. He said, I told him, this is what I'm just telling you right now, what has happened through the years. People said you ought to write a book, and he listened to so much of the stories, and he goes, you know what, I agree. He said, I know how to write a book. I went to school for journalism. That's what I do. That's what I know how to do. And so I made a deal with him to write the book, and we sat down and went over it, and it took about 8 or 9 months, maybe a little longer, and proofed everything, and there's what you got, you know. And that's how it came to pass, because people just kept telling me that's what I ought to do. So I decided to go ahead and give it a try, and I hope they love it and enjoy it.
Well, it's the #1 bestseller on Amazon, so I definitely think the fans are loving the book right now.
Yeah, I do, and I really appreciate that, because without the fans, guys, I'll tell you, I've done this my whole life. Okay, I've done it right out of high school, first job as a pro wrestler, 17 years old. It's a miracle that I even lasted in it, because I was so small when I started. But without the fans, you ain't got anything, because they're the ones that pay your ticket. They're the ones that pay your salary. They're the ones that support you. And without those guys, I give them all the credit. You can go out there and do everything you want to, but there ain't no people in the seats. You ain't going to take no money home to pay the rent. So, you know, they got to be there to support you. So I give them all the credit in the world for it, you know. When I started back in 77, believe it or not, they said I was too small in Amarillo, and they fired me and sent me home. And then I got lucky enough to get booked in Louisiana, and that's before the big Mid-South run. That's when they were first building it. And I was small, 189 pounds, and I stayed there a year and got up to like 250, and I went from there to Florida, from Florida to Charlotte, on and on. Then I came back to Mid-South when I was 20 for that big run. But all those territories and all those things, it was like it's 1 in a million chance that you're going to make it. 1 million guys try it. Everything fell in the right order, right? The moons and the stars aligned right, so I could stay in it and not be hurt or injured, and enough to keep me out of it. And the breaks came when they're supposed to come. I remember 5 years in, I was going to quit. And I was in Charlotte whenever I came back from the gym. I was in Norfolk, Virginia, and one of the wrestlers had his door open of his hotel. This is before cell phones, before the internet, all that stuff. And he goes, here, a guy on the phone wants to talk to you. He's in Louisiana. This is Buck Robley. Grappler, they need a guy that wears a mask. They need a wrestling heel, and that's where the Grappler got to start. I talked to Buck. He said, I want you 2 weeks in Louisiana. He said, I need a guy with a mask that can wrestle his butt off. Can you do that? He said, can you talk? I said, yes, sir, I can talk. He goes, what's your name? I went, the Grappler, and that's how it started. And I got that name from Don Cornudo, another wrestler that we were talking about wearing masks. He said he thought that was a great name. That was his idea. So there ain't nothing sacred in the wrestling business. But that all started, and everything just had to fall right. So I've seen so many guys come throughout the years and try and not make it. Guys you think's a shoe-in. You say, look how big is his body. Look at him. He can talk. But they just ain't got – something happens. They get hurt. It's like pro football and baseball. Certain guys make it. There's a lot of guys sitting on the couch at home that may be better, but they didn't get the breaks. It's just was something that good Lord see me through, and I guess he wanted me to do. And I'm proud of it, and I thank him every day for it.
Well, talking about those that can make it and those who don't have the look but don't quite have the ability to make a career in this business, you're currently training right now with West Coast Wrestling Connection. You're running, I believe it's Grappler's Wrestling Academy, I believe is the new name of it, from what I understand.
Yes, sir.
But who are some of the talent now up and coming in the Pacific Northwest area that you think have that look? Because, I mean, Joe and I, we know a few. We brought them down back in March for our show. I mean, I have my personal opinion, but who are some of the ones currently working now that you think have?
Have you seen a guy named Ashton Patan? He's out of Chicago. He works for our company, West Coast Wrestling Connection, does our TVs.
Yeah, I've seen him a couple times on the YouTube channel, yeah.
Okay, he's learning still. He's getting better and better. He's starting to develop his character. We're still working on that. But I think he's got a chance if he hangs in there. Like I said, the kid Alex Hammerstone earlier, he looks like kind of like a Greg Valentine, between Greg Valentine and Thor. He can actually be a bayface or a heel, but he's a good heel. I'm working with him too. He's got lots of potential. I mean, I'd be surprised if Vince don't yank him away from us, once he gets to a certain level. And they're planning to do this wrestling academy. They're getting a bigger building so they can run shows for the students as well and have their families here. So what it'll do is that will give them a boost from there kind of like the minor league straight up, and then when they start working for us at the Bob White Theater on the regular PDX Channel 12, Show 49, on Channel 49, the bigger television show, they'll already have some training and some matches under their belt with live crowd. And so Hammerstone's a good one. The Ashton for time. There's a kid named Remy Marcel that's been coming here a couple of times. He's got some potential. There's a lot of these kids who got potential. It's just if they can get nowadays. It's like the break going to WWE is the big one, right? So to get hired by him it's even harder because a lot of times you got to know somebody to get in. It used to be that way in our business. It was kind of like before it was opened up and said it was entertainment. It was like a mafia. It was locked in. If you didn't know anybody, you couldn't get in it and get a push or a break, or you could get in it, but you couldn't get a break. And now it's kind of like starting to get like that again because unless you go through Vince's office and get a big break and you know someone, where do you go? The independent market is not really blasting, people off that big. I mean, we've got some independents are doing pretty well, but nothing like the kind of money them guys are making. But there is some potential talent here. I mean, a lot of guys that I think could go, 3 or 4 off the top of my head,
Right.
Ethan HD is another one to mention too.
Yes, correct. You're right.
Thank you, Joe. You're right in my mind.
Ethan HD is a heck of a talent. The one thing, and which I'm not putting anyone down. I'm just saying the one thing that the guys have to separate is like every one of them know how to do all these flying moves and all that, and different cartwheels and different stuff. But what draws money is a personal issue, something personal, and the psychology behind that. And so they got to learn how to get that. Like when they're in the ring, they have to portray to the people something different than just the same match they had before, or like the one that was ahead of them. Some guys take all these fights and they go back to second in that match and repeats them, kind of does the same match, like the same flying maneuvers and all that. Well, it's okay to do all those maneuvers. It's fantastic. I wish I could do them, but they have to tell a story and they have to mean something to the people instead of just entertainment and sit and watch a guy fly. And a lot of guys aren't at that level yet. It takes a while. But Ethan will get there. He's a very talented fellow. He's very good. I agree with you there.
Now, talking ring psychology and everything, you recently here on the West Coast Wrestling Connection TV, there was the DDT challenge between you picked the person and Jake the Snake Roberts picked a wrestler, right. And Jake actually picked Jeremy Blanchard.
Yes, he did.
And I watched that because Jake, in my opinion, when it comes to ring psychology, is one of the top guys. The man obviously had a look, and I'm not a big guy. He wasn't a high flyer either. And the DDT challenge I thought was great television. I enjoyed watching it every week to see how it built up. Now, last week, we talked about the DDT and Jake the Snake Roberts. Now, the story goes that you had a hand in the invention of the DDT. What's your side of the story on that?
Of course, me and Jake had this running thing going for Jake the Snake for 30 years. Like, hey, I invented the DDT. No, I invented the DDT. Well, Jake uses it for his finishing maneuver. But what happened with me and Jake was we were wrestling each other. And back then, like I tell you, in Mid-South, they had the Freebirds, they had Junkyard Dog in an angle, and they were like the furniture movers. They were doing 15, 20 minutes on top. And me and DiBiase, me and Jake the Snake, guys like that were like the semi, and we'd get 30 to 40 minutes every night. So we had to go out and do the wrestling. And so it's really hot. We're in Lake Charles, Louisiana in the summer, and I'm wrestling Jake, and we keep going back to a front face lock, and I'm calling stuff out of there, and we got to get this time. We got to keep the people entertained. We got to do psychology. So I call some spot. We're going wide open. We're all young back then, 100 miles an hour, and I turn for him to grab out of the spot. And I get whatever bump I got up from, and I'm turned real fast into him, and he goes for the front face lock. My feet slipped out. His slipped out, and we went straight down the mat in my head. He rode me down, just like a DDT. Boom, and when it hit, the people, you could just hear them go, whoa, the whole crowd. And I said, dang, Jake, did you hear that? Yes, let's try it again. So the next time we did it on purpose, and he slapped me on the back and made it even louder, and the people really went off. And so we did it for like 2 or 3 days where we were still on the loop. And when we got back to TV in Shreveport, I went, Jake, you ought to be using that for a finish. We shouldn't be using that for a false finish, just for a high spot. And so he said, yeah, I'm going to take that. And that's when he took it like later named it the DDT, and he started using it from then on. But then, of course, we got into this running thing, and I might have started, I don't even know how I got started, but I'd go in promos and say, yeah, I'm the inventor of the DDT. And and of course, Jake go, what? You don't even use the DDT. You got the loaded put. And I just do it, just messing with it. And he got back and forth. So we end up with this DDT challenge. And I don't think that's true yet because I end up winning. Okay, my man Duggan beat him, his guy. And so I got DDT'd in the end of it, but that wasn't the deal. That wasn't what we were going for. So I won the DDT challenge. So I got the bragging rights forever, Jake Roberts. And so I'm telling you, it's not over yet. Okay, and so we're probably going to continue on Portland Wrestling down the road here.
I actually heard a couple people say this in the past. I don't know if you ever heard this phrase, but longevity is a secret. Now, what's that secret? Because you've been around for quite some time.
Oh yeah, I'll tell you what it is, buddy. It's you got to try to keep your health the best you can. That old alcohol bites you in a hurry. Okay, believe me, I'm a man that knows. I had to back off of that stuff. And then the other thing is where I've been lucky is I broke my neck in 2 places, and I had my 5th and 6th vertebrae replaced. I got a cage in there. I already know an old-timer that don't. My back's fractured in 2 places right now. I've had all the injuries, crushed sinus cavities, broke my nose 3 times, broke my thumb 3 times, on and on, like story goes. But one thing only one time when I was young, I hurt my knee. But I kept my wheels, I kept squatting, I kept trying to keep my base tight. If you keep that base tight and my knees didn't go, because if you lose those wheels, you're done. You can go with one arm, or you can go with your neck fused back together, but you can't go if them wheels won't get you out to the ringside. You know what I mean? You can't jump in and out of the ring, or you can't do anything. Once them knees go, you're history. And that's the secret to it, is the base in those knees.
Lenny, if I may ask a question, just kind of popped in my head all these, fantastic memories and the history and all. This had to have been either Christmas night, 90 or 91 at the Portland Sports Arena. You and Steve Dahl against the Bruise Brothers in a steel cage. And if you and Dahl won, which you did, Don Owen got to climb into the ring and strap the Bruise Brothers. And I wasn't up there, unfortunately. I would have loved to have been up there, but I heard that he got pushed. He took a full bump, and that jam-packed sports arena just got quiet. It was so quiet, yes, it was deafening.
Yeah, sometimes you go a little too far, and that was one of them, because what happens there, in the wrestling business, they call that white heat, and you don't want white heat, okay? That means you're fixing to hurt you. And I've had that a few times in my career. And I've been hit with chairs, and I've been in riots, and you got to fight your way back to the dressing room, and it ain't pretty. Okay, because you're going to have knots all over you. I did it in Memphis, I did it in Canada, I did it in Texas, I did it in a lot of places. But when you go a little too far, the people just get quiet. Now they're pissed off, and then you better watch out.
Now, a few years after that, I was down in San Francisco at one of the WCW pay-per-view Super Brawl, and I caught up with Don Harris, and we kind of talked about that a little bit. I mentioned Christmas night. His eyes got big. He goes, "Oh my God, Joe, do you have a copy of that on video?" And I told him I don't. I think it was off television. I don't think nobody filmed it, unfortunately. But there were still photos that made the Stanley Weston magazines. But oh my goodness, that would have been such awesome television. I tell you.
Yeah, unbelievable. Sometimes on the show we do now on the West Coast Wrestling Connection, we show footage of the old stuff. From Don Owens' era. Every week, matter of fact, they'll show something. I think they just showed Buddy Rose and Killer Tim Brooks in a I think it was a chain match. And we'll show 5-6 minutes of a match, and sometimes their promos, and that's one of the highest rated portions of the show. People they want to see that. It's like they love the new guys, but man, they want to see that old stuff. You know what I mean?
They have not forgotten. They have not forgotten Don Owen. They have not forgotten you, Lenny. And it's just like I said. To this day, you talk to younger folk. You talk about the old territories. Portland definitely comes to mind.
Yeah, you know what, Joe? It's funny. It's like I have these fellas that set the posters out, for the Portland wrestling here, and they'll come to me and go, they got these little handbills. They're real nice looking stuff, little small posters they'll hand out in businesses. And they say every time that we go up to a business in Portland or we're in the parking lot, we give it to a person, they'll go, oh, this is Portland. Oh, they're like the Portland old wrestling, Don Owens days. He says, let me tell you, they all have a story about when they were a kid and they watched Portland wrestling. Everyone, just about you talk to, you know. That's something else.
Oh, right now, if you can only see me, man, I got a big old smile beaming on my face. That's great stuff, man. Great stuff.
Yeah.
I could share a story right now, actually. I live down here, Joe and I both down here in Humboldt County, about 8 hours from Portland. But years back when we were coming up, back around 2004, 2005, when we were going up to Portland for Frank Culbertson's run with Portland Wrestling, the day before Joe and I had to leave, I had to go and have an eye doctor appointment. So I'm sitting there in the eye doctor chair, and we're talking. I've known this guy since I was a kid. He's been the family eye doctor for years. And he's asking me what I'm doing that weekend, and I was like, oh, well, I'm driving up to Portland with a buddy of mine. We're going to go check out the Portland wrestling matches at the Cleaver Armory. And he goes, oh, I used to live up in Portland, and I went back to those shows in the day and this and that. There's one time I took my daughter to a show, and this one guy came out to the ring, and he started yelling at her, and she started crying, tears. She was so scared of him. And I was like, oh, wow. I said, who was that? And he goes, oh, it was this masked guy. They called him the Grappler. Oh, God, everybody hated him.
Oh, no.
What's he doing now?
She started crying.
Well,
oh, my God.
She started crying. But he's no, it was the Grappler. Everybody hated him. What's he doing now, I wonder? I'm like, well, actually, I'm going to see him on Saturday at the Cleveland Armory. I'll tell him he said hi.
I'll tell you, if you ever see the guy again tell his daughter, I'm sorry, I wasn't trying to make her cry. I was just trying to do my job. That's what they paid me for.
All right, well, we're coming to the end of this interview, unfortunately. And Grappler, there's one other story I wanted to share with you real quick. Joe knows the story. And yes, Joe, I'm actually going to go ahead and tell this story.
Go for it, my friend.
Portland, it was at the State Fair show, the one where you and Ed were teaming up. And it's before the show. We're in the building, and I'm just kind of standing, minding my own business. And this girl walks by. I happened to look over towards her. I mean, she was a cute girl. I looked that direction. Now, I don't know if this was your daughter or your niece, but Skag Rollins comes up behind me, elbows me in the side, and goes, brother, Grab's daughter. I'm like, oh. And I stopped looking. I mean, I wasn't there, but I kind of stood up. At that same time, you were coming across the floor there. You had your gear on and all that. And you walk right over to me, and I'm like, you stuck your hand up. How are you doing, buddy? Oh, I'm doing fine, sir. Good to see you again. I about cracked myself.
Oh, God. I'm kidding, man. I remember that show. I didn't even know, I do have beautiful daughters. I admit that. And it does, especially all the things I've done in my life, I do worry. But I think she was safe that night, thank God.
Well, Skag made sure she was safe, Oh, brother, that's Grappler's daughter.
Yeah, thank God for Skag.
Very nice, very nice.
Anyways, Grappler, while we have you on here, is there anything you'd like to tell the fans, how they can find you through social media, how they can order the book, or any final words you've got?
Well, buddy, just saying that the book's #1 seller on a wrestling book on Amazon right now. Thank God for the fans. I'm sure they're the ones buying them, and I thank you very much. Because without you guys, without the fans, Grappler ain't nobody, okay? I never would have had a career. And I thank God for you. And you can go, if you want that book, you go to grapplerbook.com. You can buy it right there. And I appreciate everything everyone's done for me throughout my career. And thank you guys very much for having me on this show.
Oh, anytime. Well, we'll try to get you on again as it gets closer to September 28th.
Oh,
okay,
hey, Lenny, real quick. When you go in and stretch those students, can you wish Mr. Manning can you tell him that I said hello?
He just stepped out the door, looking at me, going like, "Come on, dude, you're wasting time. Let's go. You got to get in the ring." So I'll tell him for you that you said hi. Okay.
Thank you, brother.
All right, buddy. Thank you, bro. You guys have a good one. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that was the legendary grappler Len Denton. And in case you didn't catch that, you can find his book at grapplerbook.com, and he will be returning to Fort Worth, Texas, September 28th at Old School Hustle, courtesy of IHWE California. That would be Joe and I.
What an interview! Such a class act, Lenny is. We could be talking all night long, just listening to the road stories. Just fantastic stuff, fellas.
Well, definitely there, and I feel sorry for the students that he's about to go train because we got him all riled up telling his old road stories, so he's going to go in there and show those boys a thing or two. So, you know.
That's good. That's good.
Oh, definitely. But we are coming into our show, unfortunately, and just like last week, I have enjoyed this last 90 minutes with you guys. I think we have an excellent team here, and I look forward to this show every Wednesday night. Now, remember, tomorrow we have a special episode. David Fuller sits down one-on-one with James E. Cornett. James will be talking about his future with IHWE, big announcement coming there. And we will also be joined by Roxy Astor from Glow. She's going to be talking about the Kickstarter campaign for the Glow After Party that they're currently going through. And speaking of Kickstarter, Michael Elliott with Elbow Productions has just recently started a Kickstarter for the documentary of Ivan Koloff. Everyone knows Ivan Koloff, one of the other legends of the ring. He will be joining us August 27th to talk about the Kickstarter campaign, the documentary that's being done, and his career in the ring. Looking forward to that interview. Next week, we're being joined by Rudy Boy Gonzalez. Austin helped book this guy. I'm looking forward to hearing some of the stories because this man trained not only Daniel Bryan, but many other names, and currently is still training to this day. So I'm sure he's going to have some great insight into the current wrestling scene as well as the past. Definitely looking forward to that. Got a lot of great shows coming up in September. We'll talk more about that as it comes along. September 3rd, I will mention this one real quick. We do have Brian Shields coming on. He is he's releasing 30 Years of WrestleMania. Hardcover book comes out September 15th. He also was behind the WWE Encyclopedia. So he will be coming on to promote the 30 Years of WrestleMania book. And I'm sure, as well as all of our other guests, he'll have some stories and some insight into the current wrestling scene. Looking forward to that interview. But I'm going to close the show by telling everyone that you can find me, as always, on Facebook.com/Encyclopedia World Class. You can find me on Twitter at MichaelMC1972. I'm definitely getting more into the Twitter. Got a lot of followers. I'm finding that's the way to find the guests to bring onto this show. So, yeah, send me a message through Encyclopedia WCCW. Send me a personal message or a tweet on Twitter. I will gladly get back to you. Give us some feedback. Let us know what you think of the show. Let us know if I should keep my current IHWE Radio team or maybe I should kick Joe to the curb. He is the oldest of the group, but, well, we're not going to hold that against him. But, Joe, how can they find you out there on social media?
Well, they can find me on Facebook. Just punch in my name, Joe Sousa. That's the last name is Sousa, and you'll see the picture of the bald, distinguished guy. I'm not going to say old. And send me a message. Send me a friend request, and we'll hook up. And there you go. And keep in mind, in a little over 30 minutes, IHWE becomes IHWE Television. So got a good card tonight.
Definitely cannot forget about that. Top of the hour, 10 p.m. Central Standard Time, 8 p.m. on the Pacific Coast of California, 9 p.m. Eastern.
Exactly.
11 p.m. Eastern. 11 p.m. Eastern. Sorry, I got my time screwed up. And 9 p.m. Mountain. Got it straight now. Sorry. I try to keep all my time zones correct because David wants to make sure to get as many views as possible because IHWE TV is doing amazing numbers on YouTube. And tonight is the Terry Gordy Memorial Battle Royal. I had a chance to see a preview of the first two episodes. I have not seen this one. So I will be sitting back in my chair watching IHWE TV tonight. I want to see this Battle Royal. I've heard some great things. Craig Johnson is returning. He'll be doing commentary during this match, so it should be a great show, as all IHWE TV is. And speaking of great programming, next week, Tuesday night on Pipe Bomb Radio, Austin will be, along with Felix Alamido, will be welcoming Raymond Rowe. Is that the name?
Yes, Raymond Rowe, and he's actually a staple in Texas wrestling around for the NWA. in different parts of Texas. But now he is a full-fledged Ring of Honor superstar, right on the side of Hanson, War Machine, the tag team. That's ruling is an understatement to say what these guys have been doing on the ROH tag team division, being in the main events of the shows. I mean, he has such a great future with the company.
All right, that should be a good show. And that airs at 8 p.m.?
Yes, 8 p.m. I'm going to tell you this right. 8 p.m. PST, 10 p.m.
Pacific.
CST. It's Central Standard Time.
9 p.m. Mountain and 11 p.m. Eastern. You'll learn these time zones just like I do. They're hard to spit out, though.
I know.
And where can people find you on...
you can say that again.
There you go. And where can people find you on social media, Austin?
You can find me at for Twitter and Instagram at _Austin James, and also on Facebook at my real name, I guess, Austin Porsche. My middle name is James, but I prefer Austin James. It kind of sounds cool.
I like Austin Porsche, man. It kind of sounds like you kind of got that little movie star quality going myself, but that's my opinion.
It does.
Yeah, I mean, people come up and like, is it like the car? I'm like, no, it's not like the car. It's spelled entirely different from the Porsche, it's different. No, they'll say it, Porsche like the car.
Well, And Brian, where can people find you out there on social media land?
They can find me on Facebook. Just look up my name, Brian, BRIAN, WESTCOTT. They can also go to my website, which is www.brianrich.net/wrestle.html. They can find out all sorts of information about their favorites, as well as stars of the past and stars we've lost. So looking forward to being with everyone next week.
And as he said, you can always find us right here every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time on IHWE Professional Wrestling Radio. So on behalf of Joe, Austin, Brian, and myself, we'd like to thank you for joining us. We look forward to having you all here next week so we can entertain you as we all do so well. And everyone, have a good night.